strengthen them in their trials, give them courage to handle the perils which beset them, and bless them with a sure and certain knowledge of your abiding presence in every circumstance. May your holy angels guard them as they faithfully go about their duties. We pray also for the determined efforts of our police department to counter and overcome all manner of violence in our city. May every citizen come to know that it is his or her civic and social responsibility to join in that effort. Now we lift up to you the members of the Board of Police Commissioners, for the weight of the responsibilities they bear is great. Guide and direct them in all their deliberations. Bless them with profound wisdom to perceive what is right, and grant them courage to pursue it. May their decisions always promote the common good and the welfare of all your people in accordance with your just and holy will. All this we pray in your most holy name. Amen.
Amen. We have a guest presentation, the annual audit.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Michael Keenan. I'm with Hood and Associates, here to present the results of the financial and compliance audit for the fiscal year ended April 30, 2023. I would like to introduce Mr. Ralph C. Johnson. His firm has assisted us in this audit engagement.
Mr. Johnson's firm has come many times.
And I've got a little PowerPoint to go over. You should have received in your packet three documents: the financial statements, the single audit report, as well as the required communications. And a little bit about Hood and Associates. We've been serving Kansas, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. We go through what's called a peer review, where we have an outside independent auditing firm come in and review our quality controls. And we're pleased to report we've been awarded the highest rating as a result of that review. We're members of various professional organizations, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, the AICPA, which govern how we and other auditors conduct audits. We're also a member of the AICPA Government Audit Quality Center, and we're licensed to practice in the states of Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. The scope of the audit, again, we were engaged to audit the department's basic financial statements, again, the larger document, as well as compliance over expenditures of federal awards, also known as the single audit, for the year ended April 30, 2023. Management's responsibilities as far as the audit goes. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements according with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal controls that are relevant to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements that are free of material misstatement, whether that's due to fraud or error. Management is also responsible for following laws and regulations. In addition, management is responsible for ensuring that the financial information is reliable and properly reported. They're also responsible for implementing systems designed to achieve compliance with applicable laws, regulation, contracts, and grant agreements. And finally, they're also responsible for selection and application of accounting principles for the presentation and fair presentation of financial statements, including the schedule of federal awards. Now, the auditor's responsibilities. We're responsible to conduct our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and standards applicable to financial audits contained in the government auditing standards, as well as a uniform guidance. The uniform guidance dictates what our responsibilities and procedures as it relates to the expenditures of federal awards. We're also responsible to plan, and perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free of material misstatement. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not an absolute assurance, and therefore there's no guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards will always detect material misstatements when they exist. In other words, we'd make a risk-based approach to the audit, testing various significant transactions, but since we do not test all transactions, we cannot provide absolute assurance. We're also responsible to report on internal controls over financial reporting as well as compliance with laws and regulations. The American Standards Board of the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, again, the AICPA, recommend that we communicate these matters to the governing board. First, illegal acts. None came to our attention as a result of performing our audit procedures. Changes in significant accounting policies. The department implemented Government Accounting Standards Board, GASB Statement Number 87 for leases. And what that relates to is as all governmental entities now have to report leases, which used to be operating leases on facilities and equipment and those types of things. Now they have to report those as a right-to-use asset as well as a lease liability. And so that's changing the presentation of those leases. And again, that has to be adopted by all governmental entities. We're also pleased to report we had no difficulties or disagreements with management, and we had full cooperation and access to the books and records and anything that we selected for testing. A financial and compliant audit really addresses three basic questions. The first question, are the financial statements free of material misstatement? Our response to that question is we have issued an unmodified opinion that indeed the financial statements are free of material misstatements, and fairly presented in all material respects. That's commonly referred to as a clean opinion. That's the highest level of opinion that external auditors can provide on financial statements. The second question, are internal controls over financial reporting adequately designed and operating effectively? Our response is we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls that we considered to be material weaknesses. Again, had we done so, we are required by our profession to report those matters to the governing board. And finally, did the department comply in all material respects with finance-related laws and regulations? Our response is no non-compliance was noted with the finance-related laws and regulations that govern the department's operations. And finally, Hood and Associates with Ralph C. Johnson certainly appreciate the opportunity to serve as the auditors of the Police Department of Kansas City, Missouri. A special thanks to Deputy Chief McCollum, Captain Heinen, and Margaret and her staff. Very professional staff. They're a pleasure to work with. It's always nice when we are able to come in and audit and not have to make journal entries or anything of that nature. And we had no journal entries that we identified. So that concludes my presentation. I'd open to any questions.
We don't have to approve this. I mean, we accept it, we don't approve it. But if anybody has questions, this would be a good time. You obviously met with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And if you do have questions later on, you can certainly.
Well, you answered
my
one for me
contact
this
information.
weekend, so that was the only one I needed.
Okay.
But I do appreciate you recognizing our professional staff, both McCollum and all the people in that department. They are wonderful people and we're very proud of them, and they help us immeasurably all through the year. And Colonel, you'll give this to the city, won't you? This audit? Okay. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To both of you. Colonel McCollum, do you have anything to say about it?
Yes, it's always a labor-intensive time for the professional staff down in the fiscal division, and they always rise to the occasion. Everybody knows that's not a time where they can take a vacation. It's all hands on deck, and we just try to make it as seamless as possible for the auditors, and the folks in that division do a fantastic job. So I really appreciate all of their hard work and effort year after year in providing what is needed for a successful audit.
And
So
it's not unrecognized.
Oh,
We
absolutely
recognize
not.
it and we appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. You may notice that the chief's not here today, so I'm not going to call on her for comments. First will be Colonel Ortiz.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
My information is under tab B in your books. On the following pages, you will find today's daily homicide analysis report or blue sheet with some information. You will see that in 2023, we had 114 homicides compared to 91 in 2022. In 2021, we had 86 homicides. In 2020, we had 108. And in 2019, we had 79. The 5-year average is 85. This year, we cleared 53 homicides. We also cleared 21 homicides, which occurred in previous years, for a total of 74 cases clear in 2023. You also have a copy of the known fatal shooting comparison report. You'll find that from January 1st to July 24, 2023, there were 277 known fatal shooting victims. In 2022, we had 286 victims during the same time period, which is down by 3% compared to last year. In June 2023, we had 44 known fatal shooting victims compared to 47 in June of the previous year. That's a 6% decrease for the month. Please direct your attention to the June 2023 known fatal shooting report listed under tab B on your page, on page 2. You'll see on your report that of the 44 known fatal shooting victims in June, 31 were cooperative. That's 70% of the victims cooperating with the police officers at the time of the offense. You can see that black males accounted for the highest number of known fatal shooting victims with 28 or 64%. White males were second with 10 victims or 22%. Black females were third with 6 victims or 14%. The age groups with the highest number of known fatal shooting victims was 25 to 34 with 17. 35 to 44 was second with 11. The third was 18 through 24 with 9. Next is 17 and younger with 5, and 45 and older with 2. We identified 10 suspects. 5 of the suspects were black males and 5 were white males. There were 5 suspects in the age group of 25 to 34, 4 suspects in the age group of 18 through 24, and 1 suspect in the age group of 45 and older. On page 5, you will see the recovered firearms report. We recovered 172 firearms in June 2023 compared to 212 in June 2022. The 5-year average for firearms recovered in June is 192. On page 6 through 18, you will find the monthly case submissions and disposition reports. We submitted a total of 257 cases to county prosecutors. 221 of those cases were to Jackson County, 29 to Clay County, and 7 to Platte County. Prosecutors filed charges in 115 cases during the month. 23 cases were charged in custody, and 92 warrants were issued. 11 cases were returned for additional work, and 54 cases were declined. These numbers include cases that were submitted in previous month but returned in June. Special Investigation Divisions had 28 declinations. Violent Crimes Division had 9. Property Crimes had 15, and Traffic had 2. 52 of the 54 declinations were from Jackson County, and prosecutor's discretion was the most cited reason for declination with 28, followed by insufficient evidence with 15. I want to thank our detectives, especially in the homicide unit, for working hard on all these cases. I know that we said 53 cases clear, but it takes an amount of time just to clear one case. And it's so much work that goes through with prosecutors and everybody else that needs to be involved. And I want to thank those detectives for changing their hours and coming in at any time, 24 hours. They're working hard, and we appreciate the work that they're doing. But it's not only the homicide detectives, it's also our violent crimes division, our property crimes detectives, our special investigation divisions. They're all working hard, and we appreciate the work that they're doing. Unless you have any questions, that conclude my report.
Any questions? I now can't find it in my book, but when I was reading this, it looked to me like the Special Investigations Unit's numbers were down significantly from June to July. Do you know why?
Are you talking about the cases, ma'am, or? I believe that some of these cases, are you talking about the drug cases that we're sending, or?
I'm sorry, I don't remember. Why don't you and I talk about it after this, and I'll find it. All I have is Special Investigations Unit difference from June to July, down significantly, question mark.
Would it be that recover firearms?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
we'll talk
sorry.
later. Nope, we'll
I'm
talk
sorry.
later.
I will make better notes next time. And
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll find it for you and we'll discuss it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, well, you're not Joe Maben.
No, ma'am. Good morning, Major Ryan Mills here on behalf of Deputy Chief Maben.
Welcome.
Thank you. Our information is under tab C in your books. You could also follow along on your screen. This first slide is a median response time report. The top chart shows the median response time for priority 1, and the bottom shows priority 2 calls for service. The median response time for priority 1 calls during the month of June was approximately 8 minutes and 10 seconds. This is an 11-second decrease compared to the previous month. The median response time for priority 2 calls was 10 minutes and 25 seconds. This is a 10-second decrease compared to May. The average hold time for the month was 47 seconds, which is a 13-second decrease compared to the previous month. If we add the median response times to the average 911 hold times during the month of May, we can determine that it took officers approximately 8 minutes and 57 seconds to respond to a priority 1 call from the moment an individual dialed 911 until the officers arrived. For priority 2 calls, the elapsed time was approximately 11 minutes and 2 seconds. This is a 31-second decrease for priority 1 calls and a 38-second decrease for priority 2 calls. This next slide shows the median response time for priority 1 and 2 calls broken out by divisions. Priority 1 calls are displayed on the left. As you can see from the chart, there was a decrease in response times in all divisions with the exception of North and Shoal Creek Patrol when compared to the previous month. Priority 2 calls for service are shown on the right. The median response times decreased for all divisions with the exception of South Patrol, which remained relatively the same when compared to May. Moving on to the June 2023 traffic summary report. The
I'm
chart.
sorry, I'm
Yes,
going to
ma'am.
interrupt.
Yes, please.
The response time,
Yes.
obviously, we've been talking about that a lot, and we want people to be, when they call 911, we want them there as fast as possible. I also know that on a priority 1 call recently, our officers were harmed. And I just want to make sure we balance the fact that we want people there right away with the fact that they could hurt somebody on the way, another civilian or themselves. So I know it's a balancing act, but just please have our officers keep that in mind.
Since during my entire tenure on the police department, we've had the saying of to be of assistance, you have to get there first. And so that's taught to them from the very beginning and reiterated as often as possible.
Good, because I know we push, get there fast. And I just want to make, what you said is exactly right. They've got to get there.
Ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If we move on to the June 2023 traffic summary report, the chart at the top of the slide shows us citywide total crash statistics. In June 2023, there were a reported 1,412 vehicle accidents. This is a decrease of 21% compared to the previous month. Through June 30th, there have been 9,024 vehicle accidents. This is a 15% increase over the same time period last year. The bottom chart shows the number of traffic fatalities in 2023. Through the end of June, there have been 36 fatal traffic crashes compared to 42 during the same period in 2022, which is a 15% decrease. This next slide shows fatal crash statistics through the end of June. There are no significant changes compared to the previous month. And this final slide shows our DUI Wolfpack enforcement activity for the month. We had 7 Wolfpack operations in which we conducted 76 traffic stops, issued 110 tickets, and made 34 DUI arrests during this operation alone. Are there any questions on the traffic report?
Yes,
I've got
David?
one. I was looking at the 2023 fatal crash locations, and this may apply more broadly to all crash locations, but there are a number of locations, for example, West Brush Creek Parkway and Ward Parkway, Truman Road, and Independence and Hardesty, where you have multiple crashes in roughly the same area. Is there any way to calculate where we've got multiple crashes at the same location on an annual basis and get this to either the State Highway Department or the Kansas City Roads crew to see if there are anything about these particular locations that could be modified, improved, corrected, whatever, so we can reduce these kinds of multiple accident locations?
So 2 answers to that question is those high crash locations, we do conduct extra enforcement activity to try and reduce those further. But secondly, the city has recently applied for some grant funding to address just what you're speaking about, and to look at both traffic flow, traffic control, enforcement, geographic issues to address all those concerns as well. So to answer your question, yes, in a couple different ways.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's see, now we have a presentation from our Community Engagement Division.
Good morning to the board and command staff. First one we're going to start with is our Patrol Bureau highlights. Right here, we've got down in Metro, we had Officer William Harris, Roman Guzman, Andrew Taylor, Demetric McDowell, and Trey Lehman ended up locating a gunshot victim on a shooting. Quick information, they started rendering first aid and were able to quickly put out pickup information about the suspect. About a mile away, the officers were doing a canvass, did locate the suspect, initiated a foot pursuit, and were actually able to get the suspect into custody, and we've got charges pending against that. So given the amount of violent crime that we've been having the last few months here in Kansas City, this type of activity from our officers out in the field is daily. There isn't just exclusive to Metro. Officers in all 6 divisions are doing this on a day-to-day basis, responding to these types of violent calls, and are doing what was in their power to try to capture these violent suspects. So we just want to give a shout out to the officers down in Metro and all the field officers out there for the work that they're doing day in and day out. We appreciate everything that they're doing.
And I'm assuming that one of the reasons they were successful is because the community was responding positively.
Yes, when they got on scene, sometimes it can go either way. And in this particular situation, they were able to garner community support. Once again, you're going into a lot of these situations blind. And in this particular situation, we had community members on scene that had suspect information that were able to get it out there quickly, like we talk about in the police academy. Nothing can outbeat the radio. And they were able to get on the radio really quickly. And you're talking about a distance of a mile. That's a long distance to cover on foot or, after an event like this. By doing that, we were able to quickly get the suspect into custody, which is a positive thing for sure. Now on to community engagement. The first one was that we clearly been having a lot of Kia and Hyundai thefts across the city. It's been a huge problem. Kia and Hyundai started working with the police department, donated to our property crimes unit division a whole bunch of Kia locks. Initially, we had set up a plan where the citizens could come to us, and you could go to a division station or community engagement and obtain these. We've taken it a step further. We've created the form here on the right that you see up there on the screen that gets distributed across the division stations. And we've got members of community engagement every week going out to different locations, apartment complexes, and going door to door, garnering support from the community and finding out which members actually need these Kia locks. We put a lot on the community to come to us oftentimes, and we're really making an effort in community engagement to do our part to reach out to them. We're gonna go to them. So our two of our HUD officers, David McKenzie and Scott Johnson, are doing this working with our federal partners in our HUD properties, and that's what you're seeing in the photographs. They're working with HUD at these different HUD locations across the city to get these Kia locks distributed. And then up in Shoal Creek, Officer Brad Rains and Jose Madera have been working with the members in the Northland, doing the same concept about going out every week and getting these Kia locks distributed by going door to door. So we appreciate all the work that they're doing there, and for property crimes, for being able to obtain these locks for people. The next one, we had a really spike. We discussed this in last month's meeting. We had a huge spike in the violent crime last week. And in response to that, we held a Chop It Up community session down at 18th and Vine at the Director's Cup Barbershop. And as you can see, Brandon Walker in community engagement was responsible for getting this put together. Brandon organized with Director's Cup Barbershop. We brought the panel up here, which included Chief Graves, the mayor, Kyle Hollins, which is one of our youth advocates out there in the community, and several others. And the principal concept is all of us, and it transcends race, it transcends gender, all walks of life go into the barbershop. And I think in the course of our lives, everybody solved a lot of problems by talking to the barber, and the jargon and the conversations that occur inside the barbershop. And that's what the principle behind this was, is you get in a comfortable environment that's for the community, a community central location that people enjoy going to, that people frequent on a weekly basis. And you get in there and you have a real talk conversation about what's going on. And that's what this panel did. The panel was very diverse. You had a whole bunch of different perspectives. I was at this event, and I thought that was one of the unique things about it that I really appreciate, was that everybody up there had a different perspective on the youth problems, how to handle the violent crime in Kansas City. And it's bringing all of those conversations together and multiple points of view that are really going to lead us down the path to address the violent crime problem in Kansas City. So this was the first one. These are being done on a monthly basis, and we're going to be moving this all across the city to do these Chop It Up sessions in the barbershops. The second event, this is real turf on the field concept. And what we have here was Brandon came to us in community engagement and said he wanted to put on a youth football camp. And we said, absolutely, run with this. And what Brandon did was he was able to coordinate about 40 different coaches, everything from high school, college to professional coaches. It converged on Central High School last month, and we had this with the football camp. We did a huge marketing campaign to get this out, everything from being on the radio, on the news, and brought in a whole bunch of different organizations that were out here to help us. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors for this event, who did everything from donate gloves for the kids, T-shirts, food. Some of those sponsors include Hy-Vee, Shields, Minsky's, Academy Sports, and Custom Graphics, who all donated services. I would like to say that we do have the owner of Custom Graphics, Todd Barnett, is here along with Brandon. So I'd like to have each one of those people stand so we can give them an applause.
Thank you very much. It is important for our youth, well, and for all of us, to have positive experiences with the police, and you've helped with that. Thank you.
the bottom line, we recognize that we can't do this by ourselves, and it's going to take these organizations like Mr. Barnett's to come in and assist us with these type of events. And it's what helps facilitate making the event go off and the success that it did. And Brandon did an absolutely fabulous job with it. So I can't thank him enough. And then the last thing I'm going to discuss today was back in June, myself, Major Thompson, and Sergeant Carter attended the Rebuilding the Village conference in Omaha, Nebraska. This is our KC 360 that we talk about every month and that we go to on a weekly basis and we meet with multiple times a month, is built and facilitated around this village initiative in Omaha. It was all of us, along with about 40 members of our community that were out there. Everything from Councilwoman Park Shaw was there. Some of our, Melissa from the mayor's office, Pat Clark, Kyle Hollins was out there with us. All of these community members were up there that we participate with, along with Casey Common Good. And we converged on Omaha to attend the Village Initiative Conference. In this conference, we talked about holistic approaches to violent crime that are going to ultimately help facilitate the long-term violence crime problem. And those holistic strategies include employment and entrepreneurship, education and youth development, sustainable homes and neighborhoods, faith, hope, and community engagement, violence intervention and prevention, health and family, arts, culture, history, and media communications. And I read those out loud because what I really learned from Omaha is while we implementing 360 here in Kansas City, this 7-part plan in Omaha, which they've been implementing for about 15 years, the KC 360 is one part of that 7-part plan. And what it really emphasizes, and I speak about it every month and we talk about it daily in community engagement, is that at the end of the day, sharing the chief's sentiments that she speaks about at her engagements, is that the police department cannot do this alone. This long-term strategy to addressing the violent crime problem is a community problem. And we're truly trying to set the example for what we need to do our part in law enforcement and community engagement about our role in addressing this violent crime issue across the city. So that's my presentation for today, and I appreciate everyone's time. Any questions? I'm available.
David? Thank you very much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Subject to any questions, that will conclude our report.
You. Okay, so Colonel Niemeyer,
Good morning.
good morning.
My items are under tab D, but we have a presentation as well that you can just follow along with.
Thank you.
So the first slide is the department strength. We currently have 1,106 officers, and this was at the end of June again. We had 32 police officer candidates, 499 professional staff. Our hiring numbers, I'll discuss in a little bit later. We started a class yesterday, and I'll discuss them in just a moment. However, still in the process, this is folks that are in the process for our class that will begin on October the 30th. So the 180th intern officer class will begin on October the 30th. We have 10 people in the process. We have already offered one job offer for that class. And for that class, we have a test on Saturday, July the 29th, the next testing process, which is the written test and the physical agility test at the police academy. I'd also make a reminder that we are, as you can see, I feel like we are making a little bit of progress. We usually, when we start a class like we did yesterday, we start again at 0. So this is good that we have 10 possible candidates to go into the next basically 90 days to begin that process to get as many folks as we can. So I feel like we're making some progress towards that.
And are some of these working for us now? You've done
Not-
that in the past.
Not in this, yeah, we did
Okay.
with this class that began yesterday. We pre-hired, I guess you would say, and had some of those folks already working at district stations. This is starting today. We'll be working towards that October 30th class, and this is how many applicants we have going forwards. Like the last class, this last class that started yesterday, we started at 0. So we have 10 people in the process. We already have one pending job offer for the October 30th class.
And how many are in the 179th?
Yesterday, we'll get to them, 19. 19
19, thank you.
started.
Okay. And what's your optimal size of each class? What's the target that you're trying to achieve?
We can handle up to approximately 50. I will say, I don't know how many outside, we also do the outside agencies. So ideally, a class of 50 would be great. So right now, if I can get between 20 and 25 in that 90-day window period to get everyone through the hiring process, is 20 to 25 is really good. Communications. We currently have 2 folks that have a hire date and will begin. We have 1 pending job offer out, and we have 23 in the possible eligibility pool that'll be processing. We will continue to put this up here. Detention officers are badly needed. So anyone that would like to start their career on the KCPD, this is a good way to get your foot in the door. I have encouraged our recruiters as well. If someone's not for sure if they want to go completely into being a police officer, this is a good opportunity to decide if that's what you want to do. I reiterate this from the last board meeting. Whenever I came on the police department a long time ago, we would always have 5, 6, 7, 8 detention facility officers that would start the academy. And I'd really like to see us go back to that, where we hire folks into the detention unit and then work their way as they, we have classes that we work their way into becoming a law enforcement officer. So we will continue to put this slide up. Anyone who's looking for an opportunity to get into the KCPD, this is a good beginner spot. These are our recruiting events. The ones that are photographed here are the Teens in Transition event, Supplemental Superstore Ward Parkway Mall event, Community Block Party that we did in conjunction with Community Engagement, Ivanhoe Neighborhood, and the Fort Leonard Wood Military Base Career Summit. And then also you can see the other events that we went to throughout the month. So we are out and about. We're looking for folks. The recruitment and employment team is doing a good job of seeing a lot of people and getting in front of a lot of people. Our Regional Police Academy, the 177th class, will graduate on August the 3rd. If you'll remember, this is the small class that started back in, I believe it was February. So we'll have 5 KCPD graduating on August the 3rd, and then 5 outside agencies. And you can see in their picture, they had their situational training or situationals last week. This is them on their run. Each class does a run at the end. I really want to thank this class. You can see them there in front of the law enforcement memorial that's located there behind Shoal Creek. Normally the run happens here in downtown. They decided to have their run at the Trail of Heroes, and they did that in order to raise money. It's time for them, the benches to be cleaned and the trail to be cleaned, and the estimate was $3,500. So they encouraged family, friends, community, anyone to come out and watch them do their run, and also donate to the cause of having those benches power washed. So I really want to thank that class for thinking of that. The 178th class are currently in week 14. We have 24 KCPD members in that class. They just completed their first practical exercise, and they will graduate on November the 2nd. And as this was yesterday, we had 19 start the 179th class. So it's very exciting. Today's our first day at the police academy. So hopefully folks watching will know that the 180th class will begin on October the 30th. So I think we're doing a good job. I want to thank the employment unit. They're really working hard to put as many prospective candidates through, as well as the academy. As of right now, they are running until this class graduates on August 3rd. They have 3 academy classes in the academy right now. So they have a lot of folks that they're dealing with. And last, I'd like to say, and I think many of you see behind me, our interns, they're here. Their last day is August the 4th. I think they have, I've had the opportunity myself to speak to them. I know a lot of our department members have had the opportunity. This is their second board meeting. As I told them the other day, whenever I had them in this room the first time, I didn't get a lot of eye contact. I didn't get any questions. There was a lot of looking at the ground. Today, if I'm not going to turn around and look at them, but I imagine there's a lot of smiles on their faces right now because we just met with them last week and asked them to critique us because they're the first big group that we have had. And they did, and they spoke with confidence. They looked you in the eye. I think they've learned a lot about themselves in a short amount of time. And I think our department members that they have went out, they've been all over this department. And I want to thank all of the bureaus, all of our members for really taking the time to sit down with these young people and teach them about what KCPD really is all about, not just what you see, the little parts that you see or hear. So if you have any questions, that concludes my report. And go
Well,
ahead.
I would compliment the interns. I didn't know he'd been giving you a lecture about eye contact and that sort of thing. But I met with them this morning when I came in, and they all looked me in the eye and gave me good answers and are thinking about other things they might suggest for our City Council Police Academy. So we're very glad that you've been here. You have contributed to us, and if you can give any pointers to Colonel Niemeyer, that's great.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Thank you, Colonel. Okay. For some reason, I've misplaced my agenda. Colonel McCollum,
Yes, ma'am. Good morning,
good
Commissioners.
morning.
All items for the Executive Services Bureau is located under tab E of your board book. Item A, budget transfers for fiscal year 2023-24. I request general fund and police grant fund transfers. The general fund transfer moves $500,000 from personal services to contractual services. Due to appropriation cuts to contractual services, this transfer is necessary to ensure sufficient funding in categories for the normal operation of the department. The police grant fund transfer moves $654 from commodities to personal services. The police grants fund transfers adjust appropriations to where they are needed now compared to when they were estimated in the fall of 2022 as the budget was put together. Unless you have any questions, I do recommend approval.
So I have one question. When I first came on the board, we finally got rid of the term salary savings. But has personal services taken the place of what we used to call salary savings?
No, personal services is a category that pays our employees. It's totally separate from salary savings.
Okay.
But when we run out of money, it looks like we go to personal services.
We have to because when we were cut by the $13 million from what we requested, the largest pool of money comes out of personal services because we can't pull from other contractual services because we're eventually going to find ourselves in a circle coming back to pull from personal services.
So as we sit today, there's an estimated capacity within personal services to transfer that to cover the contractual obligations.
Yes, sir. When we sent the budget request over to the city, we initially asked for $8 million in this portion of contractual services because we knew we were going to need to cover legal expenses, settlements, HR-related expenses. When the budget came back to us from the city, we were assessed efficiency cuts of $5.6 million. So essentially, it left us with $2.5 million in that account. And just for perspective, in our settlements alone, we budgeted $2.5 million. So there's not enough in there to function. So we have to move over from personal services. Now, please keep in mind, because it comes from salaries and personal services, officers are still getting, members are still getting paid. They're still getting their raises as promised to them. So nothing is coming out of the pockets of our men and women.
Right. But we would like to be able to hire more people. And if we are able to, then that'll be a problem. But we can-
Absolutely. I
we
mean,
can
we're
address-
drawing down.
We can address that with the city at the time. They know we don't have enough people right now.
Correct.
Any other discussion? Do I have a motion for approval?
Move to approve the transfers.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
All right.
Do we need a roll call for that, David?
Pardon me?
Do we need a roll call
No.
for that? Okay.
Is Don still on?
Dawn? Commissioner, go ahead.
Oh,
Commissioner Kramer's on the phone and she wasn't able to be shown on the camera. So Dawn, if we ever go on when you want to ask a question, just interrupt us. Thank you. Next one.
Item B, KC ETAC purchases. The board is the fiduciary for the Kansas City Emerging Threats Analysis Capability System, better known as KC ETAC. The KC ETAC Governing Board is requesting payment for the renewal of a one-year subscription of the LexisNexis for law enforcement system. This technology has been in place for several years and is an analytic tool designed to assist in investigations. The total expenditure is $168,683. Unless you have any questions, I recommend approval.
Move to approve the expense for the purchase of the LexisNexis system.
second.
Any discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. All opposed? All opposed, no.
Item C, audit proposal 2023-17. On February 22nd, 2023, RFP 2023-17 for a one-year contract to provide professional audit services was open. 25 firms were invited to submit proposals and only 2 responses were received. Of the 2, only 1 was complete and is a local business. The contract period is February 1st, 2024 through January 31st, 2025. I recommend approval to award audit proposal 2023-17 to Hood and Associates for a one-year contract for audit services totaling $85,400 with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods.
This is for more than just the police department audit. Does this include the pension fund as well?
No.
Is there a motion
So moved.
and a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? No. Motion carries.
Item D, banking services. In January 2023, the fiscal division requested proposals for banking services. The proposal was based on costs for providing various transactions and additional services such as online banking, a procurement card program, and a merchant credit card services provider. 21 banks were invited to submit proposals and only 1 responded. The contract period is January 1st, 2024 through December 31st, 2024. I recommend approval to award UMB Bank the bid for a one-year period at a cost of $8,277.53 with an option to renew for 4 additional one-year periods.
So is this payroll and everything that goes through UMB?
It is. Mhm.
And what you're saying is that like the online banking would allow our employees to have online banking services?
No, this is for us to
Oh, okay.
access the banking. It allows us to issue credit cards to our purchasing section and allows us to set up credit card transactions at division stations, like when somebody buys a report.
Move to approve the contract with UMB.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Item E, Bank Pledge Agreement Form. The department holds collateral in the form of securities pledged to the police department at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. With the recent change to the structure of the board and department personnel, the pledge agreement form needs to be updated. I recommend approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. The motion carries.
Item F, Board Resolution and Signature Cards. The department holds banking accounts with the United Missouri Bank and credit cards with the Greater Kansas City Public Safety Credit Union. With the recent change to the structure of the board and the department personnel, several forms need to be updated. I recommend approval.
So moved.
And as part of this, I would like all of the resolutions in those forms to be approved by the board as well.
All right.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Item G, firewalls for Motorola CAD project. During the build-out of the new Motorola CAD system, it was determined a pair of firewalls are necessary to ensure network security and connectivity. To avoid network outages, the firewalls will provide failover to both the primary and the backup location.
Fail over?
When they do a test, they have to test them to see if there's a crash, if you will, or when they do maintenance, they have to take one down so that they can continue to run on the other site.
Is there a backup battery included in that for like when we had these power outages the other week or last week?
I think, I don't know a battery per se, but the generator
The generator,
kicks on.
yeah.
Yes, we have a generator, yes. But these are housed at two separate locations. One would be the backup site and the other would be here. CAD is considered a mission-critical application for the department, and having a failover will allow the department to reduce the chances of any outages during updates or maintenance on the firewalls. I request approval to purchase of the pair of Cisco firewalls from Logicalis at a cost of $214,055.64, utilizing the Omnia Partners contract.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 And opposed, say no. Motion carries. Now, you're going to say you're finished, right?
No.
Okay, because I have a question. Go ahead.
Communications update. Currently, we have 36 dispatchers and 29 call takers. That's down 30 from where we need to be compared to 27 last month. Of the 3 we lost this period, one of our newer employees realized this was not the job for them. However, we had another opening on the department that we were able to offer to them so we could retain them. One was a voluntary transfer to another unit that they had been waiting to go to for quite some time. And I know we've discussed this before. It's a fine balance between beefing up one unit and then holding somebody back in their advancement career on the department. So this person had been waiting quite a while, and we thought it was the right time that we could let them go. And then one person was hired away by a different agency. The June wait time average was 47 seconds compared to 27 seconds in 2022 and 60 seconds last month. We receive 147 calls per hour, which equates to 3,551 calls per day, for a total of 106,548 calls per month, compared to 88,853 in 2022. So calls are going up. Right now, we're not able to keep up personnel-wise, but I've been working closely with Deputy Chief Niemeyer and Major Williams and his team to come up with some solutions to keep up with the increased calls. We have 2 dispatchers on the floor that are currently in training, 5 call takers who are on the floor in various stages of training. And as Deputy Chief Niemeyer indicated, 2 call takers starting on Monday. Some of the efforts that Major Williams and his team have been discussing to reduce the amount of hold time that we've been having on the 911 system, and you may have seen it in the Daily Informant, but we've advertised for department members to take advantage of overtime opportunities to supplement the call taker duties. I wasn't sure how much interest we would get from that, but we have over 80 volunteers for that. That's law enforcement and professional staff. Major Williams is in the process of right now developing a training curriculum to get them up to speed and to see what that'll look like. It'll obviously be different for law enforcement versus the professional staff because of their experiences with dispatching and call taking. It's a very difficult job, but we do have one sergeant who is on limited duty right now in the communications unit that is participating in this, and he's found it very interesting, challenging, but yet not out of the realm of something that somebody could pick up easily. So we look forward to tapping these 80 plus people, putting them in front of the consoles and helping to reduce, or we're hopeful it'll reduce our 911 calls. Now, obviously this is going to come at a cost because we have all ranges from topped out sergeants to brand new professional staff. So the overtime is going to go up, but it's hard to put a number on safety and 911 calls. I mean, we've got to get this under control and at least until we have a solution and those positions filled full time. We think it's going to be a very good option.
I think it's a great idea. And actually, it's been a couple of years now that I met with every member that worked in the communications unit, all the call takers and all the dispatchers. And particularly the dispatchers said that, and of course it was during COVID, and so they weren't allowed to have a lot of people come in, but they said that in training, the officers during the academy would usually come in and sit for an 8-hour, or then it was 8 hours, session to see call takers and dispatchers. And they said it helped a lot when those people then went out in the field. And I suspect that these coming from the field, wherever they are, and do that work, they understand how hard it is, so much better than they would have otherwise. So I think it is an excellent idea, and I'm glad there's a good response. And I understand that it'll cost us money, but we can't afford not to have more people on that. On that same topic, are you going to talk about upgrading the 911?
I am, yes. Yeah, we think this is going to be a good program. Again, like you had mentioned, there's been a disconnect between the communication of law enforcement with professional staff because we had to put in some COVID-based restrictions. And I think this is going to be a great opportunity to bring those two groups together and reconnect and learn from one another. A lot of law enforcement don't realize the challenges and the struggles that our communications unit staff are dealing with day in and day out. And likewise, this will also allow for our communications unit personnel to get some more time off, to not have to constantly hit that grind of mandatory 12-hour days. So I see it being a win all the way around. I'm hopeful and excited about when the training does get completed and we really get some traction going to report back some good numbers to you. Yes, moving on to the MARC 911 system. So as you know, as a result of last month's board meeting, MARC held an emergency meeting of the council to discuss the 911 hold times. We had a very good conversation. They were very open to our ideas, to our struggles. We're very understanding. I think early on in our conversations with them prior to this July 13th meeting, we on the PD were under the impression that this was going to be an easier fix, I guess, more of a flip the switch and we're now all of a sudden able to do this auto attendant feature. But as we've learned, that is not the case. The technology is there, but it's not refined. It's a little bit more complex than we initially thought. So I made a motion at that meeting that MARC issue a formal request to Motorola to conduct a research and development of an auto attendant feature. MARC was very gracious in approving that, and I'd like to point out, sent a letter making that request to Motorola the following day. So they understand the importance of this to us and the region as a whole. There was a Motorola representative at the meeting. She just happens to be our representative for our new CAD and radio project. So I have a great relationship with her. We have been in contact and have agreed to stay in, weekly or biweekly contacts to find out the progression of this. But it's going to take a little bit of time for their engineers to put together this solution. They're thinking anywhere from the end of this, the end of the fourth quarter to maybe the beginning of next year. And I don't mean our fiscal year, the calendar year. It's not as quick as we had hoped.
I'd like for you to calendar speaking with her at least every other week.
You
And
bet.
getting progress report and giving us one every month.
You bet.
I want to know what they're doing and how they're coming. And you and I both know sometimes you can, when you've got a big project, well, I'll just not work on that today. I want them working on it.
You bet.
Checked with any other cities how they handle this, because sometimes we're trying to reinvent the wheel.
You're right.
And there's a wheel invented somewhere else, and
Well, we're unique, and if I start getting too far down in the weeds, I'm going to have to defer to Steve Hoskins, the CAD expert. But we're unique in the sense that we have 3 different servers, and that push 1 for PD, push 2 for fire, push 3 for EMS isn't an easy thing for us, because the fire department is on their own server, we're on our own, and then we have the backup server in case both of us go down. We can go to that server. So
No other city has that situation?
not that we had discussed or are aware of.
I'd like for you
Steve?
to have somebody, they don't have to do it today, but I'd like for you to have somebody look at that. It's hard to believe that we are that unique.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Manager Steve Hoskins. I work for Colonel McCollum, and I've been involved in the 911 profession for about 32 years. The normal setup you have for a 911 system is usually at a county level. And so if you look at the rest of the state of Missouri, for example, most counties, it's one county, one single server, one system for everybody that's within the county. We are a bi-state, multi-county system. So we actually have 11 counties, 43 different 911 centers that are all involved in this system together. And we have consolidated the backroom equipment. And so it used to be with our old 911 system, we would have had 43 different 911 servers because every center would have had one. Now we have 4 for the region. And two of those are housed in our facilities. So we have one here at headquarters and one at South Patrol where our backup center is. And so for redundancy reasons, we wanted to make sure that we didn't have the fire department and us on the same server, because if that server went down, we would lose both entities. And then our backup center has the other server, and the server doesn't just serve us. It serves multiple 911 centers. So our server that is housed here at headquarters, I think has 16 different 911 centers from our region that are all housed or are run by that server. And so the technology that Motorola has built in is built for that single county system. And so the auto attendant is a feature that's in the software, and you can turn it on if you have that single server system. So the trouble came from us being on multiple servers. That's where it hasn't worked so far, because they've never had to do that anyplace, where they get the auto attendant to send that call across to a different server to go to that other center. So that's what they've got to do their research and development on, to try and get that ability to work in the system.
Do you still think I could ask every 2 weeks how far they've gotten? Don't tell me no.
We can always ask.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, much more eloquent than me and more
Thank you, Steve.
detailed,
And
but
Steve, thank you for working on this all these years. That is such an important thing.
yes, I will stay in biweekly communication and report back monthly. That's it, unless you have any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Then Deputy Chief Young.
Morning. My first item is informational only. It requires no action. This is just to show that the Deferred Comp Committee is fulfilling their fiduciary responsibility of putting out an RFP every 5 years for a new provider for our deferred comp. I've been informed that nobody's unhappy with our current provider, but this is just a standard practice of about every 5 years to revisit it. And if there are no questions on that, my other item is the discipline policy. Yes, sir.
So you said every 5 years, so it's going out as an RFP?
It is.
Okay.
That's right. Okay. The next item is the discipline policy, which is up for approval. And before I get too deep into it, I need to point out an error that is being corrected. On page E7, letter E under BOPC hearings, the very first paragraph alludes to a public hearing. That's incorrect. As of the Officer Bill of Rights, these hearings are all confidential going forward. So that is being corrected. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any question? Well, is there a motion to approve the proposed personnel policy, employee relations, which is 10B on our agenda?
Move to approve the policy.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Can you give us just a little bit of context with this policy and what's new in it in this version? Yeah, absolutely. So this is significantly different. For as long as I can remember, and probably before that, all discipline was handled in the member's chain of command. If it reached a certain elevation of misconduct, it could make it to the chief, but by and large, most discipline stopped at the bureau commander level. And as a result, what you would get was disparate treatment of members for a very similar violation, which caused a lot of liability and perception of unfairness by the members on the department. So, for instance, if you were a younger officer in patrol and you bent your car up a little bit, you might receive this level of discipline. But if you're a tenured officer in investigations and you knew a lot of people, for instance, or just by the mere fact that you had different people making the decisions, you might actually receive a much lower level of discipline or no discipline at all. So what this does, this puts all discipline in the newly created Discipline and Accountability Division. So when misconduct is identified, the chain of command, they fill out a form to initiate the process. But then after that, the assessment of discipline is all handled by the same office. So you don't get differences in outcomes based on the chain of command that you're in. And that's largely the big difference. We have been operating with this for probably a year and a half. outside of any approved policy, just through the good grace of labor and everybody trying to do something better. But it's taken a while to get the policy across the finish line, and here it is, hopefully.
But it's been working.
It has been.
And the changes that you've made, have you tweaked them over the last year and a half?
There have been some small things that we're trying to work through. Another piece of the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights created a timetable specifically for citizen complaints. So we're identifying small measures that don't really require a policy change, but just ways that we can do things better. But I do think by and large, this is a much better practice for handling discipline. And I would hope and assume that most people think that they're all treated at least equally, regardless of where they're assigned.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I guess I've heard mixed reviews. How do you measure that? Are there any surveys taken? How do we measure whether the rank and file is really?
No, yeah, that's a good question. So we have not done a survey specifically on the changes of this, but I can say we work daily and hand in glove with labor for almost all of our discipline issues. I get the impression that they think it's better, but we have not done a survey. We can certainly say it's more consistent. That's for sure.
Okay. And obviously, if there are problems, we can hear from them and change it.
Of course. Yeah.
Motion's-
And again, I'm sorry, please.
That's all right.
Yeah, just the whole idea of this is just so the members feel that they've been treated fairly and equitably, regardless of where they're assigned.
That is exactly our goal. And to discipline officers that act improperly.
Of course.
Motion's been made and seconded. We've had discussion. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries.
And unless there are other questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
No. Thank you. General Counsel.
Good morning, Commissioners. I don't have anything for my report this morning, so I'll keep it brief.
Well, and you've made it through your second meeting so far. So
So far, so good.
you're right. Okay. Mr. Bennigan, Office of Community Complaints.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am here to present the semi-annual statistics from the Office of Community Complaints. We have provided to you in advance copies of our monthly reports for June 2023 and the January 2023 to June 2023 semi-annual statistical reports that are located underneath tab G of your board books. At this time, I'll provide you with the most significant highlights of OCC's activities. For the first 2 quarters of 2023, the office received a total of 150 complaints, which represents a 7.1% decrease compared to the first half of the year 2022, when the office received 140 complaints. You will notice a mathematical anomaly on that first page when reviewing the complaint numbers. If you look at the year-to-date category, those numbers do not add up to 150. It would seem that the current OCC database did not include the non-investigated complaints in that number, which totaled 90. But in cross-checking with other reports, that year-to-date total is 150. It's just not reflected in that report, and we'll make sure that we correct that going forward. The corrected version reads as follows. We received 4 bias-based policing complaints, 7 discourtesy complaints, 13 excessive use of force complaints, 14 harassment complaints, 24 complaints involving improper member conduct, and 87 complaints involving improper procedure, and 1 that has not yet been determined. For the first half of 2023, OCC has submitted for formal investigation 60 complaints that have been received by the Internal Affairs Unit. Additionally, during the first half of this year, the Board of Police Commissioners and the Chief of Police reviewed and concurred on 77 recommendations rendered by the office and fully investigated by the Internal Affairs Unit. The concurrences by the board and the chief were on 18 not sustained recommendations, 16 exonerations, and 7 sustained recommendations. The Internal Affairs Unit investigation of 36 other complaints during this reporting period were administratively closed
You're
by.
going a little too fast for me.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Just going back to the concurrences by the board, right? So we had 18 not sustained. We had 16 exonerations and 7 sustained complaint recommendations. There were additionally 36 other complaints that were reviewed by the OCC that were administratively composed. That were 16 of those. Also, we had 16 that were closed due to non-cooperation and 6 were withdrawn. That concludes the statistical report. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Now you
And just
may
as a matter,
proceed.
just staff updates, just want to make sure that the board is aware that we've added 2 new staff members since October of last year. I do believe that you met Tierra Watley.
Did.
Our legal analyst. She started with us back in October, but also at the beginning of the year, we added Diane Mazzucato. She replaced Michael Walker. And she's just fit in and has done a tremendous job with her knowledge of the Access database and also police policy and procedures. So we're just blessed to be fully staffed at this time. And going forward, we have a couple of announcements that we're not prepared to actually make today. But we have some innovations and some new things that we're working on to improve our process with the office. And we believe it's going to be able to continue to streamline the process and to make things more transparent and easier to understand the OCC product as it's presented not only to this body, but also to the public. And again, just want to thank the board for all of your assistance in getting those resources that we need to make this possible, but also to the leadership of the police department for working with us to also make this happen as well. So
It's important. The transparency is very important. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good. You'll like it. All right. The next is public comments. David, will you take care of that?
Yes, we have one individual, Desmond Logan. You'll have 2 minutes. Yes.
All right. I know y'all tired of seeing me. I'm here on behalf of 4 mothers. Over the weekend, because since the sideshows are not going on downtown anymore, there's no more talking about it. But it's very much going on in the city. They had some incidents where they was trying to get home, left church, left wherever they was trying to get. The intersection was just tore up, combined. But what concerned them was you had people out there with guns making them sit right there until they was done. I don't know who I need to talk to, but it's an ongoing thing with the sideshows. And if we need, this is how we can talk to them. I seen that they got the football field and nobody showed up to that. The guys that we need to talk to get the guns is the guys that's out there that watches the show or who does the show. And until we can get some place to get them off the street, it just makes more sense to just get them off the street instead of chasing them around the city, because that's where a lot of your 911 calls come from. And everybody's calling about the same thing going around. And if you just put them in one spot, we can control a lot of stuff. So I'm just here on behalf of some of the mothers whose kids have been hit by cars because there's no barricades, there's no sanction, there's no rules. So the thing is, if we just get them in a sanctioned place where we can provide rules, we can mentor them and get them off the streets.
Do you think they'd come?
I know they will come. Because see, what you got is everybody's doing everything for social media. Social media is the main thing. So in order for you to get views, likes, and shares, you have to do a lot of dumb stuff, running from the police, smacking people, all that. If we change the narrative and put them in a controlled place where it's positive. So I have this thing where we're trying to do loves and hugs. So we go mix positive music with the donuts. So we just got to create a positive space for them. As long as they're out in the street, they're going to continue to carry the guns and continue to hit each other.
I don't know for sure who you should talk to. I'm going to refer you to Deputy Chief Young, and he and you can talk about how to work on that. And you've been here before and made suggestions before, and I don't know the answers. I know Colonel Mabin has worked on that some, but Deputy Chief, would you work with him and figure out if he's got a way to make our city safer? I want it. Thank you.
Well, I've talked to Raina Shaw. We had a conversation. I've located two places.
Raina Park Shaw.
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
And she said, as long as I can get KCPD to get behind our forte, she said she's all for it.
okay, thank you.
So you had a show at the
Scottish Rite Temple.
Scottish Rite Temple. How did that go? Is
It
it
was
too small?
it was
or-
very successful. What we did was we brought the community together and made it a community-based event. So when you bring the parents along with the kids and a positive message, then you don't have no violence. It's just when you just have the kids out there doing whatever, that's when the violence occurs. So we have food trucks. I give away a car at every last show. We gave away 200 bikes. We had every resource that people need in the community as far as getting your bills paid. Aim for Peace and all the other guys was out there. So this is a 31st Street. The parents wanted to know why we stopped that because it was very positive. It just wasn't people out there burning rubber. We gave them a message. So the burning rubber is just really to get them there. So then we can talk to them. And the most important thing was we de-gunned them. We made sure every car and every person came in there didn't have a gun. So as long as we don't have guns, we
How
have
did
fun.
you, never mind, I don't want to know. Thank you.
I would be interested in meeting with you and Desmond. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? David, is that?
That's it.
Okay. Then the next, we have approval of the minutes of the June 22nd Audit Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Next, approval of the minutes of the June 27th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Kenner?
Yes. As a result of the meeting of the Governance Committee, we prepared a set of bylaws that would govern the operations of the board, and it is under tab I. This is tab IA. And I submit that for the board's approval. If there are any questions.
Is there a motion to approve the bylaws of the Police Commission?
Move to approve the bylaws as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. All opposed, no. Bylaws have been approved. Mr. Kenner,
And then the Governance Risk Assessment Survey, this is what had been requested by the city. And so I have prepared a draft for your review, and if this is acceptable, we will send it off. I don't know that I need a formal vote on this, but I just wanted to see if you all had any comments on it.
okay. I have no comments. I've read it.
I reviewed it. It looks accurate.
All right. No motion required. We'll now get comments. And as you may notice, the mayor's not with us today. They are having orientation today in City Hall of the new council members. And so he needed to be presiding at that. Bishop Tolbert,
Nothing at this time.
Tom Whitaker.
I want to take just a moment and follow up, Deputy Chief McCollum, on the comments regarding the call takers and dispatchers. I was fortunate enough to spend some time in that facility, and I can attest those individuals are doing more with less resources, and I want to let them know how valued they are. So the little bit of time that I was in there, and I didn't want to spend too much time and be too disruptive because they were busy nonstop with significant matters. And so to see firsthand what those individuals are doing with long hours in a very stressful environment. So I want to commend them and let them know how much they are valued. And I know that's a sensitive topic now, and it should be. We'll see if we can get this technology to help with that, but I'm very, very pleased to hear about the volunteer program. We talked about it when I was there. Had no idea that you'd had 80 respondents, so that's very encouraging to hear about. Those are all my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Kramer, did you want to comment?
I'm going to pass right now. Thank you, though.
You're welcome. I have no comments. There are information items that are listed on the agenda. If anyone has any questions or comments about them, I will take them. Otherwise, we'll entertain a motion to close this section, go into closed for litigation, personnel, and labor negotiations.
I move we close the public session and go into close.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
It's a roll
Talbot,
call.
aye.
Roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Dean, aye.
Whitaker, aye.
Kramer, aye.
Meeting will be adjourned. We'll go into closed session. Thank you.
We are in great.